Hey, US government, you have some explaining to do. So I downloaded the little red book and I made a new bestie. We were just talking about the differences and similarities between China and the US, and she ended up going to the market and sent me a picture of her local market. I picked what was familiar to me and what I knew, and that was corn on the cob. I seen that 1 kilogram, which I found out was 2.2 pounds, was 6.90 yen. So I went on Google because it's free, right? And I looked up to see what would that be in US dollars. 94 cents. 94 cents. What would it be here in America, you might ask? When you do the math, $7. Is this what they don't want us to know?
Why does it have to take Americans actually, going to the Red Note app to realize that a lot is actually going on in America, and America is not as perfect as they thought it to be? Hey y'all, welcome to Cecil Spill. Today we're spilling about Americans who are literally shouting and crying out because of their lifestyle in America. They are comparing education and everything that they can compare, groceries, the standard of living, everything, taxes. They're comparing everything that they can compare. And Americans are realizing that, well, we were lied to. Like, China is not as bad as they made it seem. I mean, Google is your friend. Why didn't Americans, take out the time to Google? Well, I'm not going to judge them. I am not going to judge them. Same way it took me years before I finally Googled how salt was produced. I mean, it is what it is. Anyway, let's go listen to people who had one or two to say concerning all of this, and I'll see you guys right at the end.
I've been scrolling Red Note for hours, and the grocery hauls, you guys, this is why they wanted us to hate China. We are the third world country. They can afford food. They can actually afford to buy groceries. Their groceries are cheap. What are we doing here?
As a member of the rest of the world, I'm so happy that Americans are finally experiencing this because they need this paradigm shift. They should know that you can get decent groceries for $20 in China. They should know that a doctor's appointment and diagnosis costs 20 cents in Malaysia. And they should know that Indonesia looks like this. And that this is the standard of living that we're used to. The problem is sometimes even the government falls for their own propaganda. And what I mean by this is that because they paint the rest of the world as third world countries and therefore inferior to them, they act like that when they're dealing with us sometimes. And this is why they're shocked when the Malaysian government would tell their government that you don't tell us who we should be friends with. Or when Indonesia would just flat out ban the new iPhone because Apple didn't want to play by domestic rules. And the thing is, when we actually build communities, individuals will actually realize that we don't hate each other. We're just pitted against each other. Just like what's happening in Red Note, when we build genuine communities and interactions, we just realize that we have so much more in common than we think, and we like and dislike the exact same things.
So I went to check out the grocery hauls in Xiaohongshu, and I am gonna report my findings.
Convert it into US dollars. That's $1.16, 40 cents, 78 cents, 41 cents, 80 cents, 90 cents, $1.35, 67 cents, and the total is $6.
Going on Red Note and watching all these grocery hauls made me realize why Chinese food have so many vegetables and so many ingredients, and why I rarely make it, because I'm always like, I can't afford to take a mortgage out to make dinner. But watching them buy their groceries and seeing how utterly affordable it is made me realize a lot, because I know what you're going to say. Well, Tasha, you lived in other countries and you travel the world all the time. Why didn't you realize other places are more affordable? I understand other places are more affordable. Even when I lived in Japan, groceries were more affordable, but they were nowhere near as affordable as the food that I'm watching on Red Note. Because tell me why someone had 12 bags of groceries and it was only $32. While I went to the grocery store earlier today and had 2 bags, and one of the bags was just filled with spinach, and it was still $61.54. $61.54. I feel like Eleanor when she realizes that this is the bad place.
Okay, so I'm seeing everyone go over to Red Note and they're starting to see the Chinese grocery hauls, like how much average folks can afford at the grocery store, and not just how much, but like how high quality the food is. I really can't help but think of Boris Yeltsin's trip to the United States in 1989, just after the wall fell. He went to a grocery store somewhere in New Jersey or the Midwest, and he saw the amount of food available, the crazy diversity, and how cheap it was. And he leaned over to the person next to him, I think it was George H.W., and said, if the Russian people saw this, they would riot.
Guys, China is super cheap and nobody's talking about it. Even though I'm in Shanghai, which is supposed to be the most expensive city in China, I bought this breakfast, soy milk, an egg, and some bread for only 7 yuan, which is like $1. Can you imagine having breakfast for only $1? Crazy thing.
I've been on Red Note for a few days, and I will say interesting points. Chinese people are learning the cost of American healthcare, and they're horrified. Americans are seeing Chinese grocery hauls and realizing that people in China can afford groceries and it's actual food. So that's interesting. I'm sure that'll be totally fine.
I made a post on Red Note the other day asking like how much Chinese people spend on their groceries like weekly, and the general consensus was somewhere around 300 yuan, give or take. So translated into dollars, that is about $40-ish per week for like food. And then so many people commented on that post saying that food wasn't even something that they had to budget for. That like their schools and their jobs, they take care of their meals throughout the day. Even their own food and even going out to eat, it's not something that they think about because they don't have to budget for it. I couldn't imagine having so much access to good food that is healthy for you and cheap, like provided by your school, provided by your boss. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but American school lunches are like notoriously horrific. And your job doesn't like provide you food like with the cafeteria unless you have like a really fancy schmancy high-end job in America. So the fact that like a majority of people in China work jobs that pay them enough to get good healthy food and provide them with good healthy food, their kids are provided with good healthy food at school, and the fact that they don't even have to think about budgeting for buying their own groceries or going out to eat. So it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder.
Did you know in China, when a baby is born, they give them a box full of supplies, everything that they need for the baby, diapers, clothing, and this box doubles as a crib. But in the U.S., when a baby's born, they charge you to hold your newborn. It's called skin to skin, something like that on the bill. But yeah, I just found that out.
After joining Red Note, I think we're the bad guys. I mean, I already had an idea that the U.S. was pretty bad, but I watched somebody do a grocery haul, and the amount of stuff that they bought for what seems to be like $50 is like ridiculous. I was looking at that kind of in shock, and I'm like, that would have cost me like $400 here in the U.S. I think we're in the bad place.
The funniest part is American citizens wouldn't even be talking to Chinese citizens if the U.S. government didn't try to ban TikTok because they claimed TikTok was going to push Chinese communist propaganda, right? And then a bunch of Americans went and joined an app specifically designed for Chinese citizens that was cleared by the Communist Party of China. And then suddenly we have cross-cultural exchange between American citizens and Chinese citizens. American citizens start to realize that Chinese people are people. That honestly, it feels good that some of y'all, I know you don't travel, but you're like, oh my God, look, they have groceries like us. That blew my mind. A lot of y'all were like, they have houses like that. It feels weird. I don't know what you thought they were doing in China. Feels weird. But the opposite side of that is the fact that the Chinese thought a lot of true things about us were actually communist propaganda from China. That is fucking, they thought their government was lying on us. Like, I've seen the comment sections where people would be like, yo, our government, the Chinese government said that y'all Americans have to pay for your own ambulances. Like, that's crazy. That's like a lie. They're like talking shit on capitalism, and legit Americans have to be like, no, for real, we have to pay for our own ambulances. Like, ambulances aren't free. And they're like, yo, what? Okay, but like that bullshit about your kids possibly needing like a bulletproof backpack, like that's crazy. And we're like,
I can't believe it. I'm watching videos of Americans finally realizing they've been heavily brainwashed by their own government saying that China is bad after being on Red Note for just a couple of days. Now, I've already seen some content from there that's been shared on this platform, and I gotta tell you, they're pretty spot on. I mean, they have developed a lot in the past 40 years. Just Western propaganda just makes them sound evil. But if you were to ask any genuine Chinese person about how their country is, they'll tell you honestly. And yet, the US are dumb enough to believe what their government tells them. Wow. Utterly shocking.
They have houses like that. It feels weird. I don't know what you thought they were doing.
See, this is what I'm trying to understand as well, because same amount of videos I'm seeing people talk about, oh my gosh, they have universal healthcare. Oh my gosh, the taxes are, oh, look how much farther their money goes, etc. And a few things. Number one, I know we all have the internet and we all have Google. I know in Canada, some of our stuff is censored, but like you guys in the US, the information is there. Now, is it that you guys are a victim of, you know, the propaganda or whatever is spewed out that America's the best, America we don't care about? So because of that, there's a lack of interest or curiosity about how other people are living in this world? I literally can name, like off the top of my head, 5 other nations that have universal health care, that have better social services for their people, that like I'm just so flabbergasted. I can't believe I used that word. Again, some of this stuff, I feel like it should be common knowledge, or at least like the information is there. But this is another reason why I advocate for traveling, because as Rick Stevens, I love PBS. He always says like it's the biggest deterrent of like prejudice and all this other stuff, because you actually go and see how other people live. And then you realize that we are all the same. We're just speaking different languages. We have different skin complexion. We have different cultures. But at the end of the day, people want to feel safe. They want to live well. They want to make sure their kids are okay and that they have enough food to eat at the end of the day. So I guess shout out to this new app where you guys are learning all of this stuff, but take it a little bit deeper. Take it a bit deeper. You see how they're living in China? Hey, let's explore how are other people living in other parts of the world. Let's continue to enrich ourselves on other people's culture.
So the pattern I recognized on Red Note, the Chinese people are very surprised to hear that life in America is not as wonderful as they thought it was, because they judge life in America based on what they see on TV and in movies. So when the US people are complaining about everything going on, they're shocked. Tell me more. Like, what? This is so strange. Like, this is not what we thought. On the other hand, the Americans who are witnessing the Chinese life and just everything of their culture, their food prices, everything. They're shocked at how good everything is and how happy all of the people are. The same kind of thing where it's like, wow, this is so shocking. Like, so both groups of people are just completely shocked by what they're seeing, interacting with this other group, because it's exactly the opposite of what they thought it would be. And so this goes to show how strong American propaganda is, because essentially Hollywood and movies and all that is propaganda, because that's telling the rest of the world this is how we live, when reality is it's certainly not. Both sides are realizing, hey, wait a minute, like this is everything I thought I knew is wrong. It's all due to US propaganda, whether it be in movies to show the outside world this is what America's really like, or whether it be, wow, maybe China isn't this big bad thing that the US government is trying to tell its citizens it is. So both groups of people are being lied to, but the root of those lies is on the US side. It makes sense why the Americans are trying to villainize China, communism, and all this stuff, and saying all these horrible things about China. Now people are actually like, okay, well, let's go look at China, and they're realizing that everything's a lie. So yeah, the whole TikTok ban definitely has backfired on the US government, because people are realizing that even more so how full of shit they are.
I can't stop crying about the public toilets in China. I can't. Every time I go on that app, I cry, because it's not that our money is being so heavily invested in war that we can't eat and house ourselves. It's that our government has made a deliberate choice not to invest in us having a decent quality of life. Like having people have to defecate on the streets and then everyone getting mad about it and then blaming the unhoused people for it, because we chose to not invest in people. And then also we can't do something as basic and simple as having public toilets. And by the way, these aren't just stalls of toilets like what we would imagine being here. This is touchscreen toilet displays showing which is full and empty. Imagine the most advanced parking garage in Vegas, but better, with air controls inside of them. And we would have the attitude that unhoused people don't deserve that here. We would. I can already hear it. They don't need that. And that's the thing I'm realizing. Our government's just been they don't need those things. They don't need that. Yeah, we could make a car that's 20 years further in advancements than the cars here are with the touch screens and all that. But you know what? We would rather develop a weapon that can tear somebody into shreds a lot more efficiently. It's disgusting.
I'm seeing all over my FYP a bunch of disgruntled Americans regarding how America seems more like a third world country, and everything that they learned and knew about China is just not true. So if you're mad about the groceries and that they don't have to pay property tax after they pay off their mortgage, let me tell you that they have better work-life balance than we do. So during my doctorate studies at Johns Hopkins, I was sent over to China to do research with the Center of Disease Control. They do have a CDC as well. There's none of this really super calculated, hey, you take 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch if you work 40 hours, but if you work under 20 hours, you don't get a break except for one 15-minute break. It's just weird policies that we have in America. No, they have a lot of freedom to leave work, go get a boba, go get an ice cream, come back. They actually support you taking naps. At the CDC, they used to have these beds for you to go and take a nap if maybe you live too far from work. Otherwise, most people go home during lunch because their lunch hour was 2 hours. 2 hours was their lunch break. Not to mention the majority of the time we were always leaving to do PR and relationships. So social networking is a huge thing over there. Whereas in America, everybody's isolated. You don't even know who your neighbors are, right? You just go straight to your house when you come home from work. But not there. Not there. I remember we would meet other government officials during lunch, and then they'll gift us big boxes of grapes and of course alcohol. And then their alcohol is like 40% alcohol. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna so get drunk and throw up. But we were drinking like during the day. Like it was like daytime drinking. And it was because we were social networking with like these people, right? And this was okay. This was almost applauded. And there's always something to do after work. So you don't just go home and pass out and like, I don't know what else we do. Like, it's so toxic in America, but there's always something. So I just remember like flying LED kites, like during the summer, going to the river. There's always like an activity. And that's also why they're so slim and they're so much more healthy, because you easily you don't just walk 5 miles, the 10,000 steps that is recommended. Like you walk like 10 miles a day. It's like just so easy to do. But yeah, they have better work-life balance, and that whole them passing out at their desk, working 120 hours. No, bitch. They ain't working 120 hours. I was like given so much liberty and freedom when I was like, and I had my own executive room, which was crazy. They're so polite. They're like, oh, American foreigner, like, let's put her in an executive, room. It was so chill. Like, the majority of us were always, I think, they were even playing video games during work hours. But, I mean, they do work, okay? I want you to think they do work. They get stuff done. But there's just so much liberty. There's none of this, toxic clock in and clock out, and this snitch Nancy that's watching you and your every move just so she could report you to HR. You know what I'm saying? They don't have that shit.
The Americans finding out everything they have been told about the Chinese was propaganda is so funny to me as a German, because the amount of things I heard so many Americans still assume about Germany is absolutely mind-boggling. I heard stories of personal friends that went for an exchange year to the US, and they were literally asked how it is to live under a certain painter from 1930. They were a flight attendant, and they were asked by an American flying to Germany if we have Wi-Fi or if we have cars. I take this opportunity to let every American know we Germans invented cars. Actually, a lot of technological advances that you profit from are from Germany. This video was inspired by a discussion I had under a post with some mega dude that literally thinks we are still living under a certain painter from 1933. Which is so ironic, because everything happening in the US right now is literally repeating what happened back then in Germany. The signs! I'm telling y'all, if Trump comes back on the 19th of January saying, I make sure TikTok won't be cancelled. That's literally what a certain painter from 1933 did to get the sympathy of the crowd. Please don't fall for this, please.
I'm moving to China because what the fuck, America? I made a friend over in China through RedNote, and they told me that China has public school for college. Guess how much it is? Wrong. $650 American per year. I looked up the average price of 1 year of college in America. $30,000 is the middle for 1 year. And we have to go for 4 years for a degree. I'm moving to China. Are you kidding?
Y'all not understand how fucked up America gotta be for you to work hard and still have no fucking where to go? It's just oh my gosh, when is it all going to end? Y'all, it's so bad to the point where even though you work, you more than likely can't even eat every day. Not even 3 times a day. Me, none. Yet they expect us to keep working with a smile on our face. Fuck all of that. I be seeing why people don't fucking want to work. They pay us a little bit of money, but make everything fucking expensive. I'll be damned if I'm putting my life on the line for $14, $15. And then the whole time, your ass can get hurt or die at the fucking job you're at. So now you done fucking wasted your whole life being a hard worker to a company that don't give a fuck about what you got going on, don't give a fuck that you don't have nowhere to go, just don't give a goddamn. And certain people will never understand the frustration. You guys will never understand unless you're going through it. There is no reason why hard workers can't afford to eat, can't afford to live, can't afford to pay rent. It is so much. And I just wanted to let everybody out there know, okay? If you are deciding to bring your ass to America, hold on, y'all. Stay the fuck over there. Do not come over here. Please. I beg of you. This shit sucks. All prayers to all my Americans, all my USA motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying, my cousins, all that. We gotta figure something out, because this ain't gonna work for me.
You guys, you heard them right there. What were your thoughts? What did you think about everything you heard? Please leave your thoughts with me in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye for now.